Scott Penfold here from Loaded Radio, and we recently asked KHEMMIS vocalist and guitarist Ben Hutcherson what his top 5 favorite doom metal albums are. If you dig the video, don't forget to like it, and as well subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to check out loadedradio.com for your constantly updated hard rock and metal news, as well as the 24-hour live radio station. Here's Ben Hutcherson from KHEMMIS with his top 5 favorite doom metal albums of all time.
So I'll say these in no particular order, although the first two are my 2 favorite heavy bands. So I would go with Clearing the Path to Ascend by Yob. Yob is simply one of the greatest bands to exist. I can't say enough good stuff about that band and the music and what that music means to me. But that album just is... I think you could say that anything that Yob does is transcendental, but perhaps then that transcends the transcendental. It's just an amazing piece of art. In a similar vein, I will say NEUROSIS' Through Silver and Blood. Some of their later career stuff is, I think, more intimate, both in terms of production and lyrical content, but there is something monolithic about that album, especially the title track. There's something about that I've never heard a song like that in any other style, and I don't know that I ever will, and I think that's okay. It stands on its own. I will go with ASUNDER's A Clarion Call, a brilliant piece of funeral doom from the Bay Area from the early 2000s. I guess ASUNDER was around late 90s, early 2000s, featuring John Gossard, also of Weakling, and their use of guitar layers, their use of different kinds of vocal styles, and the use of, I believe they had a cellist, or maybe it was a violinist, I can't remember, but added a very emotional kind of layer to the music. And I think you hear this in other bands that incorporate this. There are certainly, some NEUROSIS songs, for instance, that have cello added. But there's something about that kind of classical instrument that just, I think, tugs at your heartstrings in a way that guitars and bass can't. Let's go classic. Let's go Black Sabbath. But I'm going to throw you for a little bit of a loop here. I'm going to go Dehumanizer. Ronnie James Dio is one of the greatest singers to ever exist in any kind of music, and there's a debate often, Ozzy Dio or Sabbath Dio, and they're 2 radically different bands. And the Dehumanizer album is one that I came around to very late. I already knew, the sort of classic Dio albums, if you will, but Dio came back after having been out of the band for a while to do Dehumanizer, and I think it just crushes. And it's got some of the kind of up-tempo stuff they'd done on like Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell, but it also has bigger, sludgier, more, I guess, like classic Iommi riffs than a lot of the more rock and roll stuff. And Dio doesn't even sound like himself on half the tracks in the coolest way. He sounds more sinister and less, I'm singing to you about elves and goblins in the woods. There's something about the sinister edge he had on that, which I can only assume was that he was already fed up again with being in Sabbath and he was about to quit. But that album just absolutely rules. And then finally, I'll go with something that I think is probably a little bit lesser known. The band Wake from Little Rock, Arkansas, RWAKE. Their whole catalog is filled with just phenomenal albums, but I'm going to go with Rest, which is, it looks like it'll probably be their last album unless they get back together and do something else. There's only a couple of songs, I think 4 full songs and an interlude. Maybe there's 5 songs. Everything that you would expect from a southern sludgy band in terms of atmosphere, but with really powerful melodic movements, a lot of Swedish influence, but dragged through tar pits, and just really haunting, really powerful music that is, I think, woefully underappreciated.